Hi, I'm Neil Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a Fit Pro doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a Fit Pro? This is the FITPRO Session podcast with Parallel Coaching.
What FITPRO advice would you give your younger selves?
That was a question from one of our listeners to this podcast.
Completely. So over the last couple of weeks, we've had a number of questions come in from you lovely people, a whole host of questions. And today we're going to tackle one of them, which is, what advice would you give your younger selves as a FITPRO?
Yeah, and I think this overlaps massively to business as well. So
yes.
FITPRO business. And FITPRO, like how you progress as a FITPRO, how you put yourself out there as a FITPRO, how you get started as a FITPRO. And I think that's really powerful because as with anything, we grow, don't we? So like the person we were...
Well, I hope we grow.
Yeah. Well, the person we are today is not the same as we were yesterday or a week or a month or a year ago.
I'm going to butt in very quickly.
Yeah.
One of my things that I'm going to say that is going to be my advice to a younger person, to my younger self, is actually don't grow up. I'll let you carry on. That's one of my things. We'll come back to that.
That's cool. I like that.
Because we're saying we're growing. But one of the things I've recognised that I grew into somebody I didn't want to be.
Oh.
And it's about giving advice to my younger self is actually to be the kid in you. Anyway, let's keep going with your intro. Keep going.
Yeah. So I was just saying about how we all grow, we all develop. So sometimes we could, like we said before on the podcast, about we compare ourselves at day one to someone else's like day 4,000 of their FITPRO journey. And actually when we're at day one, we don't know what we don't know. So we're kind of, there are so many lessons. You'd almost want this older self of you to kind of come back like at this like ghost from the Christmas future.
Ghost of a Christmas future. I love it.
Of the FITPRO business future. And like kind of come back and sit on your shoulder and tell you all of the lessons. Like this is, if you know this now, you'll be a different person than if you didn't know
But
this.
is that not the beauty in you only know what you know now and that's okay. And you push over to today's domino and that gets you to tomorrow's domino.
Yeah.
And then you only know what you knew yesterday into today. And you could be running into a complete train wreck the next day. However, without that lesson of the next day's train wreck, you don't become a person you are today.
Yeah, well, I remember actually like that we've done so many business courses over the years.
Yeah.
So many. And one of that I've learned recently, like I went back through and I was learning a whole concept. I was like, I've heard this before. And I went back through a really old version that we learned probably 10 years ago. And it's like, that same subject, that exact same lesson was there, but maybe I wasn't ready to hear it or understand it in the same way I could now.
Completely. Maybe so you did hear it because you remember it from 10 years ago. Your interpretation of it 10 years ago was with only what you knew back then.
Yeah.
So I could read a book today. I've been reading a book by Debbie Ford recently, Why Good People Do Bad Things. And I've read this before, but I'm still getting learnings and distinctions from it today. Because when I read it how many years ago, I only knew what I knew then.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's okay.
Yeah,
cool.
That's powerful.
So we've been in the fitness industry for not far off a couple of decades.
Yeah, to show our age.
Yeah, completely. And so we've had a number of ups and downs, I'm going to say. Maybe I'm going to say I've probably had, it's not from a competition, I'm going to say I've had more downs than ups.
Okay.
And I'm going to say you've had more ups and downs.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that you've brought my downs up.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
That's nice.
So,
you haven't brought my ups down.
That's good to hear. Amazing. Cool. So I'm going to kickstart with, I think I've already said like one of my bits of advice that I'd give my younger self would be to remain as the kid. Yeah,
that's cool.
And so if I think about my fitness journey, how I've developed through my career, as you get older, as you gain more knowledge, as you do more things, it feels like you need to kind of almost naturally mature. And actually, what I'm going to say is since about 2017, late 2017, I found myself in this kind of like point of this transition where I became more of the kid in me again.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay. And so, and since then, I felt a lot more balanced in life in general.
What, so were you just taking life a bit too seriously?
I think so, yeah. and I think you've hit the nail on the head. And so if I was to go back and give my kind of younger FITPRO self some advice, is to be more unapologetically me.
Nice.
I felt more relaxed in like right now how I'm presenting. I get things right, I get things wrong. I stumble on my words, that's okay. I say the wrong thing, that's okay.
If I link that to growing up, like when we're kids, we allow ourselves to make mistakes. We allow ourselves to kind of be creative with it, and also just do the things you enjoy and not do the things you don't want to do.
Yeah, completely.
Which I think when we get a bit serious in our business too early, as a FITPRO or whatever, you kind of get too serious too early. All the fun saps out of it, and you end up doing all the things you don't want to do.
And I'm not saying I'm not serious. I'm just serious about being unapologetically me.
Nice.
So if I say something and it's what comes from me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It might not sit well with other people. I might say it in a certain way that really motivates and inspires one person, and the same conversation could give somebody else the complete downer.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I can't control other people. So maybe that's the point of like, as I grew up and matured, I was trying to people please. I was trying to please everybody. But in doing so, I didn't please me.
Ooh,
and so actually
amazing.
Just being unapologetically me, I can control me, but I can't control everyone else's emotions or thoughts or opinions of me or the conversation around me.
All the things you've done and how that affects
Completely.
others.
So my advice to my younger self would be just be yourself.
Just do you.
Just do you. Because no one else could do me.
Nice.
I was only, it sounds great, but there's only one Neale here.
And if you're constantly being someone else or restricting yourself from being you,
It felt
then
like,
no one gets to be you.
Yeah, I mean, in between, if I think between like 2012 to maybe 2015, it felt like, imagine like a beach ball, and I'm trying to like grab hold of this beach ball. I'm constantly trying to blow the beach ball up and become bigger and more mature, but I'm trying to force the beach ball underneath the level of water. So I'm trying to push it down into the pool, but every now and again this beach ball would build up so much pressure, I'd let go, it would bounce out of the water, and this beach ball would appear and show itself. And other people around me would see the real me, and they'd be like, who is this person? This is crazy. He's almost like a kid. It's almost like he's regressed.
It's a different
It's
person.
a different you. And I'd be like, but that's me. That feels like the real me. And then I'd work really hard at trying to like, actually, maybe I was more acceptable with the beach ball under the water. Where now...
Which is hard work to keep pushing it down, right?
Well, it's tiring.
And then when it pops up, it pops up.
Whereas
hard.
now, I just go, well, sod it. There ain't any beach ball. You get me. If you don't like me, that's cool. If you do get me, bring it on.
Nice.
It is what it is. So that's my first point.
That's a very strong first point.
Cool.
I like that.
Set the bar. Set the beach ball high and go for it.
Are we just going to alternate across, do you reckon?
I'm going to lead on with one more, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
I think over the last few years, I've challenged my views. Okay, inside the realm of fitness, inside the realm of my knowledge, understanding of the body, the anatomy, the physiology, and kind of just been like, we mentioned this before in the NLP season 8 episode about behavioral flexibility. And I've had some really strong views and beliefs around nutrition, some really strong views and beliefs around how the body works and programming. And I think over the last 3 or 4 years, again, maybe this coincides with just being me. Okay?
Yeah, maybe.
I've challenged my viewpoint on this and read further around the scope of some of these topics and become more forgiving in recognizing I still have strong beliefs and values, but I also recognize that other people have really strong beliefs and values that are completely opposite to mine, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And in doing so, maybe that's allowed for me to become more me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So is that about challenging your views that you had, challenging your beliefs?
Challenging my beliefs, and so I use this analogy of the king's chair. I think this is a nice point to bring it up.
Yeah.
So imagine you're sitting on a chair now. I'm sitting on a chair facing the camera, and now as I face out, it's nice and comfortable. And as I face out from a king's chair, I have all of my values, my beliefs, my priorities, and it's really easy for me to see, and it's really easy to me to find evidence in my world that backs these up. Yet if I walk round to the right-hand side of a chair, I can see a different side of me. a different set of values.
The world looks totally different.
The world looks totally different, but it's still the same topic we're talking about. And I could walk around the back of the chair and look at the back side of me, the back of a chair. And again, that's the complete antagonist set of beliefs and values. And I could walk around the left-hand side of a chair and see life from a different viewpoint. And it's not to say that I'm going to change my values, my beliefs, or my priorities. It's just recognizing that there's other values and beliefs and priorities that I could have the opportunity of recognizing.
What I love about this is there's that overlap, isn't there, between who you are as an individual and how you show up in your FITPRO and your business as a FITPRO.
Well, from a business
so you're basically
perspective,
saying, this is me, and as I develop me, I can become a different leader within what I do. I can see other opportunities that arise. I'm not as blinkered to one particular thing that I believed it should be.
And there was a radical shift inside Parallel 2018. There was another shift early 2020, and then there's been a couple of shifts throughout the kind of a coronavirus pandemic. Now, if I'd have kept with the same values and beliefs and not stretched my behavioural flexibility and walked around the King's chair with you, the Queen's chair as well, okay, I don't think we would have progressed and or seen the radical growth inside Parallel, because with my old set of beliefs and values, which were absolutely fine, by the way, I wasn't able to challenge them and see business or certain topics within FITPRO business in a different aspect, and therefore challenge my beliefs and see that some of them were maybe limiting me.
Yeah. A cool thing about that is that when you're like, the beliefs that you've had bring you to where you are now.
Yes.
But then if you want to go anywhere else other than stay in the same place, you need to change the beliefs, the values, the things that you see as opportunities.
Which is challenge your views to move forward. So if I was to go back to my younger self, I'd say you could have moved forward faster, quicker, stronger, and smarter, okay? Not rushed it, but by challenging your views sooner. Perhaps I got to 2017 and that was the first point I challenged my views. What if I'd have gone back and challenged my views back in 2005, for example? Yeah. Okay, I've potentially missed out on 12 years of that
progression
of
or
that
opportunity.
Progression completely.
And this links to my first one really well.
Fire away.
So my first one is that structure isn't restricting.
Oh, I like
now,
this.
This was my challenging belief.
Okay. Nice.
This was my limiting belief. I always believed that, like, the reason why partly why I went into business and I was my own person, is that I wanted freedom to do what I wanted, when you wanted, and that I couldn't stick to routine, and that's really restricting and boring.
You couldn't stick to your 9 till 5.
Exactly. That was my rule almost that I'd made in my head, this limiting belief. And it took a lot of versions, didn't it, Neil? Neil's a very organised person. It took a lot of versions for it finally to probably click and go, actually, structure is allowing me to be more free in what I do rather than restrict me. Because I go, like now, for example, a good example of this is like how I organise my day. Rather than just like, do the fun things that I want to do, and then I panic because I've maybe not done the important things, and then I end up actually being confined, for example, time-wise, into it being, say, a longer day, or having to work on times that I wasn't going to, which isn't free, is it? That's restricting.
Well, a lot of people see that.
If I had the structure, which now I do have, then I'm like, cool, well, all the musts are done, therefore I can be flexible about when I work, when I don't work, etc.
Whereas a lot of people believe that having freedom in their day is not having a busy packed schedule, having more life than work and having life-work balance. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas you're actually going back to your younger self and saying, what would be great here, Hayley, is to have your day, your week, your month, your quarter, your half year, your 3/4 year, your year, structured and planned out with clear parameters, clear rules that says, does this, do that, get that.
You know what? It's liberating.
And now you've got complete freedom.
Yeah, it's freedom, it's liberating, because you don't have to think about
We're not
when
flying
you're
by
going to
the
do
seat
those
of your
bits.
pants.
They're all taken care of in the planning stage. It's all done.
I like that.
That was my limiting belief that I've challenged.
And you've walked around the Queen's chair
to see that actually there is a better opportunity.
Cool. I'm going to jump on to my next one. I'm going to
on
try
that
and
one.
read my writing.
Oh, that one you've kind of done.
I've kind of done the set. So my second one was always be yourself. My first one was challenging your views. My third one is own your choices and own your outcomes.
Ooh.
So if I think back to the early stages as a Fit Pro, I'd make decisions, maybe this links to yours. Perhaps I didn't have enough structure and rules, okay? And I'd make decisions that didn't necessarily lead to the outcome I wanted.
Ah, nice.
And then I didn't like the outcome, and then I would resent the outcome, and then I would try and find all the other reasons of why that came to fruition, and never, I suppose, not taking complete responsibility.
Yeah.
So over the last number of years, I think really since maybe 2013, we went back to UPW, Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins back in 2014 as well. And I've worked with a couple of other coaches since to fully own my shit. Excuse me.
Take responsibility.
Yeah, take responsibility. So every choice I make is on me, and I own that. And the outcome is the response of those decisions or choices
What
I've
I
made,
love,
and they're mine.
They're yours. Whether they are good, bad,
Exactly.
indifferent, doesn't matter. So when you do something, when you get a good outcome, you're like, I did that.
I think we're really quick. I was to like, oh, look, a good outcome. Like, check this out, that's wicked. And a bad one would come, a bad outcome would come through, and I'd be like, okay, well, I'd find other reasons to blame. I wouldn't take responsibility or own the outcome.
Yeah.
Or take feedback from an outcome to move forward. And what I've really enjoyed, again, maybe since like 2017, there was a tipping point, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Whereby I was like, right, this is my choice and this is my outcome. But then you could reverse engineer it and go, well, what was the outcome I wanted? Okay, what outcome do I want? What's my goal? Bit like start with the end in mind.
That's exactly
okay?
what it was.
And then go, well, if that's the outcome I want, then I need to make a decision and own that decision. But first and foremost, I must know what I want, okay? Know why I want it, know when I want it by, and go, right, that's my decision, and own, unapologetically myself, own that with 100% authority and commitment and readiness, and go.
Yeah.
Because if I don't own the decision, then I'm not committed. And if I'm
the
not
action.
committed to the action, I'm not going to get to that choice. Then I'm not going to get the outcome I'm after.
I love
So
that.
it's going back to my younger self and saying, you're going to make some good decisions, some bad decisions, and that's okay. Either way, own both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
cool.
I like that. So
Where
own
are
it.
we going
this
next?
This followed on really nicely. My second one was start with the end in mind. So I don't need to go there because you've kind of done that about
Yeah.
the outcome.
Well, no, that's cool because
But I think
own
it
it.
links onto my next one,
Yeah.
which I'm going to dive into. So this is about focusing on what matters and doing the most impactful things first. This is linked to the starting with the end in mind. So if you turn around and go, right, I'm a day-to-day task focuser. This is probably my biggest thing that's improved
You're a
over the years.
processor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that's improved over the years. So, for example, I would quite often go, right, sit down, what do I need to do today? And I'll do the fun thing first.
Amazing.
I might have to do all sorts.
It's like our 4-year-old niece. What would you like to do today? Just the fun things, please.
I'm just
going to
do the painting,
yeah,
please.
completely.
Just going to play on the trampoline. Can you imagine? I'm just going to play on the trampoline all day. So I just do the fun things first, but not necessarily the most impactful things. And sometimes I wouldn't focus on the main thing, the thing that matters most, and I'd get caught up in the small little minutiae details, like those tiny little things. And that kind of comes in two fashions for me. One of them is about the things that I do, and one of them is about what I focused on when I'd done those things.
Nice.
So the things I do, if I focused on the things that matter in a business, it's actually going to be the sales, the people that I help, how I can move the business forward, isn't it? It's not, well, what do I fancy doing right now? It's about the purpose for the business.
Yes.
And then the other part of it for me about the detail was how I do it. So I remember some of our early videos. You'll remember what I mean.
This is amazing.
They are so cringy to watch back now. But the focus should have been on, this allows me to get content out to people to allow them to progress and develop. not worry about what my hair looked like or
what you
presented,
felt like,
or how I felt.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Or that I felt like I wasn't good enough to do it, and I would focus on me in that video, not the outcome of somebody watching it.
Yes, completely. So it's recognising, going back to your
It's
younger
not about
self
me.
then, to summarise would be that you are not the business and the business is not you.
Yeah, probably a good summary.
Which we've mentioned before. So summarised it in 6 words.
Oh, damn
it. But it's true though, isn't it? Because, what are the most impactful things? So if you've got to, going back to like own your decisions, own your choices, own your outcomes, what is the outcome you're after? What if we had a long line of dominoes you're going to push over, what was the outcome goal? Now, what is the most impactful thing you're going to do today to get you to that goal? On some days there's going to be tasks that we go, do you know what, I really enjoy that. It's like playing on the trampoline with our 4-year-old niece. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really good fun.
Yeah.
But actually, the reality is to move forward inside your business, there's going to be things daily where have huge impact for you to move forwards. Perhaps we don't feel like doing them.
Maybe they're uncomfortable, difficult, boring. But all these things move us forward.
Yes.
And actually you need to do them to get there. And actually the thing that I want at the end is worth the little bit of uncomfortable.
Completely. And it's something that my coach says quite often is your goals do not care or consider for your feelings.
They don't care how you feel.
Completely. And it's about taking impactful action. What I really liked about that was looking at the tasks on a daily basis and thinking, right, there's lots of things I could do in my day inside your structure to give you freedom.
Yes.
But what are your top, what I call your 3 to 5 to thrive? And so looking at what are our top 3 musts. So if I was to go back, or you was to go back to your younger self and say, right, in order to move forwards to tomorrow towards your goal and own your decisions, what are your top 3 most impactful things that you must do today? It would
not things I feel most comfortable with.
Not the things you feel most comfortable with.
Not the fun things, not even the quick things.
Yes.
Just what are the most impactful things.
So every day for the last couple of years, Hayley and I, literally the first thing we do from about 8:30 till maybe 10 would be, what are our 3 to 5 musts? I must do certain actions, certain processes on a daily, weekly, bi-monthly, monthly basis that pushes over the goals.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly, because it's like that. And still every day you'll go, what are your main three things you're focusing on? I'll go blah, blah, and blah. And you'll go, is that really that impactful? Oh, you're right.
I mean, at the end of the day,
like, get caught in it.
It would be really, starting out parallel, it was all about like creating content and building a brand. Does that make sense? Whereas if I think back to like, what advice would I give the younger self now starting parallel, or any FITPRO business starting out, would be, how do I put really high quality, valuable content together that has a strategic purpose to help somebody go on a journey of solving a particular problem?
Yeah.
Okay, so the end user, for example, yourself, or for your clients, okay, they might want to lose weight. What is their deepest burning problem right now? What value can I bring to their world that takes them on a journey to solving that problem and have a mini win? And now through that process, I can market my business, which allows me to collect and gather leads. And then I can collect and gather leads and take them on a sales journey. And then I can elegantly and ethically sell to that person, okay, and provide a real solution to their problem. They come on board and go, do you know what? This is an amazing service. This is an amazing product. Take, for example, the Revision Bootcamp, for example. Yeah. And now you go ahead and you confidently and knowledgeably pass your exam. You go, do you know what? That was wicked. That was incredible value, a great price, 5-star tick. You go, cool, my job's done here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, that's the outcome is achieved.
The outcome is achieved. So, a lot of people start their business, and like I did, and the focus was, how do I help more people? But actually they go intrinsically linked to, how do I help more people and at the same time exchange value for money and make more money? And therefore, the more money I make, I can help more people, and I can place that money back into better content, into better strategies, into delivering better systems, into upgrading my product or service. Yeah. And it all works together. Whereas I'm going to say for both of us in the early stages, it was all about, how do I just help more people? Not necessarily how do I make more money and have that relationship and king's chair relationship with money. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, which
and
allowed
making
us
more money, which has allowed us to help more people completely, which runs into tens of thousands of people.
Yeah. But something you were saying that related to something we've both put on our list.
Yeah, go for it.
So you wrote, you don't need to know how.
Yes.
And like when we were building, say, the Revision Mastery Bootcamp, we had this idea of what we wanted.
Yeah, completely.
But we had no idea how to do it. And that was one of the biggest learning curves. We didn't know how to build it. We did, in fact, the first platform we put it on wasn't even a real platform. We just put a really strange URL on it so nobody would find it.
So what we're talking about here is, just to give some context, if I was to go back to my younger self, is you don't need to know the hows before you get going.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is, if we think back to 2014, we wanted to go online. Okay, so we've been, it's funny, isn't it? Because for last year, every FitPro's going online. Yet for us inside Parallel Coaching, we've been online for 6 years.
Yeah.
And when we first went online, we didn't know how to go online. We just knew that we were going to create an information product called the Revision Mastery Bootcamp. And consequently, we created the content, we put it out there, but we didn't know how to get it out there. We didn't know how to get it online. We didn't know the intricacies of building web pages, of having funnels and whatnot. And we've literally figured it out as we've gone. And I suppose that's a flying by the seat of your pants. So maybe if we were to go back and say to our younger selves, I'd say, Neale, Hayley, you're going to fly by the seat of your pants. It's going to feel a little bit scary. Sometimes you're going to go fast. Sometimes you're going to go slow. But you're going to do something that you don't know how the outcome's fully going to be pulled off, which I suppose goes in conflict with make a decision and own the outcome, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or not
no,
it goes in line with it.
Yeah, in parallel with.
In parallel with, great word. And so if I take, for example, the squat assessment bootcamp, okay, being completely open and with that as a journey, we had pre-sold the entire squat assessment bootcamp.
We knew the outcome. The product would offer, and people then lapped that up. They said, "Yes, I want to buy it."
That pre-sold it based on knowing what was going to be inside that. Yeah. We then went away and figured out all of the hows of how to do that, and leaned in very quickly and went on our Alton Towers ride and flew by the seat of our pants and felt the fear and pushed through and created an incredible product in a short period of time.
What's really good about that model of doing that, as well as we learned that, was that you put in the things in the product that people actually want.
Yeah.
So if they change their wording, or they said, actually, I want more on planning, or I want more of this, or I want more of that, then we could put that in it. Whereas if we made it in advance to what we knew how to put in, we didn't know if that would match to what they really want.
So many FitPros and other businesses are putting together incredible products that no one ever goes on to buy.
Yeah.
And so something that our coach has worked with us over the last few years, it's about listening to your ideal market. It's listening to your ideal person and saying, right, what is the problem they have right now? Go and gather all the information from them, create the product as if they were like, oh my God, you've been inside my brain with CCTV. Position the product, knowing that it's going to take. You pre-sell it and get some early beta testers and feedback, and then you roll it out and you launch quickly. And that's what I would say to our younger self, going back how many 15 plus years, is saying, first off, feel the fear and lean in, okay, because this is going to feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But we put stuff out in the early stages of our career, and it felt like tumbleweed flowing through the desert, just blowing on through, and no one even heard of some of the products or things we spent weeks and months putting together, and that's okay because actually we've learned from it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you listening right now have to go through that same turmoil, because now you know, right?
No, you know.
Now you know. We can't be ignorant and naive to it.
Yeah.
It's not about putting together the perfect product and launching it and hoping it works. It's about listening to your ideal target market, figuring out what it is they want and delivering them something on a silver platter, knowing that it's going to take or already has taken, and then going and building it after you've got some buy-in.
Love that. And that links to one of the ones that you put on your list, but I'm going to steal it.
Which is what?
Take imperfect action.
Go.
Because it's imperfect.
Yes.
In the fact that you're taking the action. Don't wait for it to be perfect to launch it, or
completely.
wait for it to be finished, or wait for the podcast to be amazing before we put it out there.
The podcast, FITPRO Sessions, is a
perfect
example. Yeah, take imperfect action. Some of our FITPRO
perfect
sessions...
example of imperfectness.
Completely. I'm going to be honest, there's been no perfection throughout FITPRO Sessions.
No.
It launched quickly. The branding, people spend thousands of pounds behind their podcast, and they might have more success. I don't know what arbitrary number we're going to measure this off. But at the end of the day, am I creating valuable content? I consider it and I value it as yes, and the feedback that says yes. But in the grand scheme of things, I've got a small light behind the camera. I'm using an iPhone. I've got an old 5-year-old, 6-year-old tripod, which is partially broken, and a white wall behind me. And it's about taking action and saying, right, do I consistently show up? Yes or no? Yes. I think that's why FITPRO Sessions has worked. Is because every week consistently we've shown up.
I think consistency, if this isn't on here through how we read, I read a really bad handwriting. I think that
I'm going to say that's one thing I wouldn't go back and tell my younger self is to be consistent, because I'm going to say right from day dot,
we already knew it.
That was the one thing that was going to top trump us across other providers.
It's probably the one thing that's attributed to the success we've had is literally like the years of building up a consistent thing. It's like if you look up a flight of stairs and say that's massive, I'll never get up that. But if you just take one step and then deal with the next step as you kind of get there, and just consistently taking one step up the staircase, you end up this massive staircase when everyone else got 3 steps up and went back to the bottom.
So maybe that's maybe it's to go back now and actually would say to our younger self and say, hats off, in a decade plus time, you're still going to be consistent, and you're going to be working on the quantity game, not necessarily the quality game, and you're still going to be taking imperfect action.
Almost regardless of the quantity and quality we put out back then, the foundations we built through that consistency of taking an imperfect action allowed us to get to who we are now.
Completely.
And where we are now.
One thing, going back to like one of your points, which was having structure, and having that freedom, it's been really easy across the last decade plus, to turn around and go, well, we're going on holiday, it's Christmas, we could take our eye off the game, so to speak, with regards to consistency. We've been ill in that time, we've done racing in that time, we've done loads of things. There's been loads of reasons why we wouldn't have been consistent.
Stuff in the classroom. Moving, all sorts.
Loads of things. And yet, if we look at it, you wouldn't really see any major hiatus out of any of the main platforms.
Certainly not all of them
in terms of marketing, all at once.
Yeah.
No, completely. And again, it comes back to what we mentioned earlier: is your goals don't really care for your feelings or what your personal life is like, because you are not your business and the business is not you. And so consistency is showing up in all the times that you perhaps don't want to. Consistency is showing up all the times when you perhaps don't feel you want to or need
when
to.
you know you're busy, it's preparing to get that out beforehand.
Completely.
Yeah.
I really like my next one, which is competent is the antidote to fear.
Ooh,
so imagine for a second when I was really young, I'd go and ride my bike, and the first time I'd ride my bike, I fell off. Okay. Second time I rode my bike, perhaps I stayed on for 3 or 4 seconds, and then it would be like 3 or 4 goes at riding my bike. I'd figure out how to balance, then 3 or 4 goes I'd figure out how to turn the pedals, and then 3 or 4 goes I'd figure out brakes and then turning. But ultimately, the more I practiced, the more competent I became. And so there's like this inverse relationship here, isn't there? So when I first get on the bike, my fear of falling off is the greatest, is really high, because the reality is my competence is low.
Yes.
Yet as my competence of riding the bike increased, my fear of falling off reduced. And so a lot of people don't take action, and this would be my thing going back to my younger self, would be you need to practice very, very quickly, even if the environment doesn't necessarily be conducive to practicing. And through practicing, regardless of your environment, you are going to reduce your fear.
What I like about that, when you said about environment, it reminds me of the bike.
Yes.
Is that's fine on the road.
Yes.
And then like you go on a trail, and it's now a hard environment.
Yes.
So your competence goes down and your fear goes back up again, and you're going down this really steep hill that's muddy and it's rocky and everything else. So when you're choosing your first outing, don't make it the really steep one that's out of your environment that you can't manage.
Completely.
Go for something straightforward.
But then what I mean by that is actually practicing in an environment that perhaps isn't necessarily going to get you your full outcome. Perhaps your outcome is just to practice, okay, or isn't conducive to practicing. So an example of this would be on our level 2 fitness instructor, okay? We can go into the gym on the practical weekends and we can practice. Okay, our competence goes up and our fear of coaching comes down, or standing in front of somebody and projecting our voice. Now, you don't need to be in a gym to practice. You could be standing in your living room, you could be hoovering, you could be sitting in traffic in your car, and you could rehearse and practice your introduction, demonstration, explanation, and idea principle, or NAM set, or nasty principle, okay? Even though you're not in that environment. So the environment might be your kitchen. It's not conducive to coaching. There might not even be another person there. But through practice, becomes the repetition of mother of all skill, you increase your competence, and therefore your fear goes down when you go and teach somebody. And so what I recognize would be is like, I wish I could go back to maybe 2011, 2012, whereby we didn't practice face to camera as frequently enough. And saying, Neale, Hayley, go back in, practice, repetition, rep after rep after rep, and build up this muscle of face to camera. Because it wasn't until maybe 2014, 15, where we suddenly became a little bit more confident and the fear reduced. We could have reduced that fear through being more competent sooner, but that only came through practicing in an environment.
I love that. That's awesome.
So competence is the antidote to fear.
That's a very cool concept. I love that. And I can really see the examples of it in video and in teaching and all sorts. And knowledge.
And so I think that's relevant for anyone, okay? Are you going next?
I've got all of mine are already done.
Okay, I've got a couple more. Okay, because I think you've sandwiched yours together as well. My next one is lean into what you don't know. I'd like to go back and I'd like to tell my younger self, our younger selves, lean into what you don't know.
Lean in.
And
you often say this, don't you? It's like a hashtag lean in.
Hashtag
lean in.
I
do have one more on there, actually.
And there you go. I knew you did. Okay. And lean into what you don't know. And sometimes maybe that's like the fear and competency thing. Perhaps we don't lean into something that we don't know because we're not competent or we're not knowledgeable. We judge ourselves, or maybe there's a fear of judging others, or fear of getting it wrong, or fear of not being good enough. And so we don't lean into the things we don't know. And actually something I've learned across the last number of years is to actually put my hand up and go, I don't know, and that's okay. I go and find out for you, or I go and find out for me. But leaning into certain topics, certain areas of business I have no clue about.
And personal development.
And having that introspective work on ourselves and going, lean in, I don't know this. I don't know what I don't know, but let me go and find out. So I do know. And
there's so many examples of this, like I cannot tell you, isn't there? Like even down to the first time I had to learn about bookkeeping for the accounts.
Yes, completely.
The first time I had to set up the website. Oh my God. The first time we got our website back, I cried. It was that bad from the first web developer, right? Horrendous. So we sat there and we went, well, I can't stand this. We will learn how to code it ourselves.
So Hayley learned it.
And I just
coded.
leaned in.
Leaned in.
So you just go, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's confusing. Yep.
And maybe that's the thing as a FITPRO is like, I got in as a personal trainer. I'm a PT by trade. You know, I want to be in the gym. I want to be doing sets, reps, tempo, time. I want to be doing trisets, giant sets, drop sets. I want to be helping people get their goal. And, you know, as a FITPRO, it took me a while to recognize that I needed to lean into lots of other topics as a fitpreneur, okay, that perhaps I didn't initially foresee or embark on. I didn't think I'd have to get good at marketing. I didn't think I'd have to get good at sales. I didn't know I'd have to understand bookkeeping. I didn't know I'd have to sit down with a VAT man. I didn't realize I'd have to sit down and have different discussions in different worlds and different industries. But you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you are literally lots of hats. It doesn't matter whether you are looking to only have a few people in your local church hall, or whether you are looking to have a few thousand people online, or have a packed out boot camp face to face. it's going to be the same principles.
Love it.
You said you had one more.
So the one I remembered is my hashtag stay in lane.
Yes, nice. I like this.
If you've heard me talk on anything, then you probably have heard me say this. I say it over and over again to so many learners, and I would say it to myself back then as well, in starting parallel, but also starting out as a FITPRO. And I think my very first gym job, and I was part-time maternity cover in a ladies only gym, literally just gym instructing, and which, to be honest, I was cleaning a lot.
But no, your main role was inductions.
Was inductions. So inductions, and it was my very first gym job, and I would continually compare myself to other people, and I wouldn't necessarily stay in lane as to what they were able to do they were able to sort out the timetables, they're able to run the classes,
or able to train different people.
Yeah, why can't I do that? And I would compare myself, thinking that I wasn't good enough to do that, and therefore put myself down rather than just staying in lane and focusing on what I could do. I was constantly almost looking over my shoulder as to what other people were doing in their lane, and putting myself down.
It's really also easy, isn't it, when you look and you make comparisons to other FITPROs, and you say, right, maybe let's just take your day 4, okay, at your ladies only gym as a gym instructor, and other PTs would come in and they'd be working with a whole host of different shapes and sizes of different ladies with different problems and whatnot, and you could easily make comparisons. But from the outside looking in, they're a FITPRO and you're a FITPRO, but we don't know what day of their career they're on, but also we don't understand what qualifications they've got. And so from the outside looking in, you could be going, well, I could train that person because you're a qualified FITPRO, but you don't, and it looks to be relatively easy, because if you took somebody that's, say, overweight and sedentary, the likelihood is, and they've got clinical conditions, the likelihood is that they're going to have quite a regressed program. So from the outside looking in, it looks quite straightforward. Yet they've gone and embarked on various other courses, qualifications, and years to get there, and knowledge to get there. And so it's making those comparisons, because the outside looking in, you could go, well, I could do that, yet you can't. Does that make sense?
They're much more competent.
Completely.
They've done the necessary legwork to go.
My next one, I think I've got, I think that's my final one then, is my outcome, is not linked to my time.
Oh, wow. This is very similar to what I was saying about focusing on what matters, right?
Completely. And so let's just say, for example, today, okay, I won't give you the ins and outs to it today, but we are recording this. It is late morning, okay, and I'm going to say just my extreme musts. I've had quite a lazy-ish day, okay? Yet, inside Parallel, we have achieved the outcome already, okay, of many areas for today. But that doesn't equate to the amount of time I've spent working in or on Parallel. Does that make sense?
It does.
And so I've got, if I was to go back and say, it's a bit cryptic that, isn't it? If I was to go back to my younger self, I would say to them, my younger self, Neale, Hayley, you've got to put together strong systems and principles inside the business, so the business operates with and without you.
Nice, there you go.
And so my time isn't linked to, if I, for example, put myself on, I don't know, £20 an hour, okay, and I work 5 hours, you could say, Neale, you've earned £100. But that's not how the business operates.
No.
I cannot, so what I'm trying to say is, can you develop a structure, a strategy, a set of business principles that say, even if you don't show up today or do your must, do you still earn the £100, yes or no? And I want you to consider that actually that's not that challenging to produce and pull off.
And if time isn't linked to what you do, then the money that you make, then it means it's flexible on both angles.
On both angles, and this gives you incredible freedom.
You could earn £1,000 today from doing an hour's work or from doing 20 hours work.
Yes, completely.
You could earn £1,000 tomorrow from doing the same.
And yet when I started out,
or you could earn 10p tomorrow.
And yet when I started out as a FITPRO, I spent many years doing kind of a pay-as-you-go method, okay, where I'd bang my head against the brick wall so often and I wouldn't learn that valuable lesson. some weeks I'd have, a number of clients come through and I'd be on, 25, 30 pound an hour. Then I'd have like my raving fan diehard clients that would pay maybe a little bit less but do more sessions. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of a month, for some clients, there'd be more month for money. Then parents' evening would kick in.
Yeah.
Then people's MOTs would kick in. Then it would be school holidays. And so my income fluctuated radically until I suppose we really got into the nuts and bolts of parallel and said, how do I put together a service, a product that doesn't rely on me being inside the business?
Because the time becomes the limitation.
Because
we've only got 24 hours each, right?
I got to a point where I'm like, I've maxed out my PT slots.
Yeah.
If I want to earn more, I physically can't put more time in. So I could either put more people into those sessions or I could put my prices up. And then came this like limiting belief of sitting on the king's chair of thinking, I can't put my prices up because other people, PTs in my club, were charging this. And then I couldn't necessarily just put 2 to 3 people in every session because they might not know those people.
Yeah.
And so I was limited by my approach, but also limited by time, but more so limited by my way of thinking.
Nice.
And so if I was to go back to my younger self, I'd like to knock his head against the wall, bam, and say to the younger Neale, okay, your outcome is not linked to how much time you put in.
I like
That's why I've left it to last. It's the most powerful one.
I think it really is.
Because there's very few industries that trade time for money.
And I think it comes out of that job mindset, doesn't it? If you're used to being employed, then you're used to literally, it doesn't matter what you do or how impactful your time is.
Yeah.
You turn up, you do your job, you're on salary, you get paid that amount, and you're done. So you just turn up. Whereas actually when you work for yourself, it's not the same. So you can do the same amount of time and get differing amounts of money.
If you were to go back, let's finish today's FITPRO session off. I'm going to put you on a bit of a spot here now. So I might go first and answer mine whilst you think. What would you go back and say to your younger self and give them the biggest high five for?
Well, you said about consistency earlier, but you go and do yours.
I'm going to say... what's the other thing? I've proper put you on the spot, and apologies. It's not on our notes. It genuinely isn't on our notes. I'm going to say for me, I'd go back and say to both of us, you did what you said you were going to do. You had a dream, you had a vision, and you followed through. You crazy, crazy pair. Well done.
Nice.
High five. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if you think the last couple of years...
That's goosebumping, that.
Yeah, the things we've pulled off, okay, because of the choices and decisions we made in 2011 to 12, a big shift in 14, a big shift in 16. That was the most uncomfortable year, back end of 2015, early 16, and then 18, 19 and 20. Yeah. 2020.
Yeah, crazy.
So I'd go back and I'd just say, do you know what?
And I think that part of my high five for that is the teamwork.
Cool.
It's literally like, we've done that as a team.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it without you, and you couldn't have done it without me.
No, completely.
And
Hats
if we
off.
tried, it would have been totally different.
It would have been totally different game.
Totally different. So I think that's my big high five, is like, what an insane amount of teamwork.
What I'd really like to know is, what would you go back and say to your younger self?
Yeah,
okay.
no,
Or maybe you're brand new to fitness and say, what would I have gone back to my younger self just 3 months ago or 3 weeks ago? Okay. And then have this time to really think about where you are right now and how you're going to move forwards. I hope today's been of value. I hope today's been a bit of an insight, and I hope we've answered the question with...
I think you've also probably realised we're just like you.
Yeah, completely. I hope we've done it justice. I hope we've done it justice. What we'd really like to know is if you've got any other questions you would like to throw our way, we'll sneak them into the FITPRO sessions.
Yes. So if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer, like this one was a listener question, then there is a link alongside this video or podcast that you can literally go click on the link, send us a message with your request. And we'll go from there. And there are also options that you can be a guest.
Completely.
And
We are going
be on the
guests
us.
are going to come through. We've got back to most of them. I think all of them, in fact. Okay. And it's just about chasing up times now, and we will get guests on. We've got a little bit more free time in our diary coming up, whereby we are actually at home and not in the classroom teaching, which I'm loving. We literally are living in the classroom, which is wicked. So we will get the guests on. and just keep rolling with us. What I really want you to do is to go and questions and guests, but I really want you to also go and drop a 5-star review. And you think, oh, there they go again, getting those reviews. Honestly, you wouldn't believe the impact that has at helping FITPRO Sessions get found by more people just like you. And if you've got value and you've got this far, 45 minutes through the podcast today, then I'm going to say there's some clear value to be had. So drop a 5-star review, let more people know that we mean business inside the FITPRO Sessions, parallel coaching and the fitness industry.
That's it.
And we will see you next week, next Tuesday, for episode number 7.
Number 7.
See you later.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Neil Bergman.
And I'm Hayley Bergman. Over the last 10 years, we've helped thousands of fitness professionals to get qualified, learn with simplicity, and coach clients with confidence.
We're the first to say that learning and being a FITPRO doesn't have to be hard work, and that with the right structure, support and resources, you can become a confident and knowledgeable fitness professional that is dedicated to more.
So how do you learn, qualify and kickstart as a FITPRO? This is the FITPRO Sessions podcast with Parallel Coaching.